Hi, welcome back to Wild on Wheels. Today, we're going to be taking apart this engine. We're just going to be looking at it. Why this engine? Why is it so exciting? Well, this engine's got over 500,000 miles on it, and I put the vast majority of those miles on this truck. So I can assure you that, yes, this engine actually has 500,000 miles. It came out of this truck. It's a 2001 Chevy 2500. I bought it in 2005, so it's 4 years old when I bought it. And I put all these miles on it, and it was a lot of driving. It got to the point, it still ran. When I pulled this engine out, it was still running, but it got to the point where I was literally having to put a quart of oil in it every time I filled up the tank, which for me, I was driving about 175 miles a day, round trip to work, and so putting a tank of gas in it was like every other day. So I was literally putting a quart of oil in it every other day. When I went to go pull the engine, I was literally to the point where whenever the change engine oil light would come on the truck, I would literally just change the filter because it had fresh oil in it all the time. So we're going to take it apart. How wore out is this engine? Obviously, it's fairly wore out because once I put the new engine in, the truck had a lot more power. So it's definitely worn out. But what does it look like? What does a 500,000 mile engine look like? That's what we got to try to figure out. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to take it apart. I have in my possession right here, 2001 Silverado Tahoe truck. I actually have the service manual, the actual official GM service manual for this truck. It has every single specification for this engine, and I want to check everything. Now, I'm not going to get super duper crazy with it. We're not going to, some of you out there may want to know, like, hey, how much is the cam worn? How much is the this? How much is that? We may get into some of that if there's enough of you guys out there that are wanting to know those kinds of things. But for the most part, I just want to check, like, what are the oil clearances? How much taper is in the cylinders? Are the pistons worn out? Can the pistons be reused? Right? What would it take to get this thing? Do we need to just dingle ball hone the cylinders, put some new rings in it, put it back together, some new bearings, and reseal the engine, and we got a good running engine? Or does this thing need more? I don't know. And that's kind of what I want to figure out. So we're just going to start digging into this thing, and we're going to be taking a look. I'm going to get you guys in close as much as possible just to look at it. We got to, let's stop talking about it and just do it. Let's pull these valve covers off. Now, just so you know, a little history on the engine, the truck. I did no major internal repairs on this truck. As far as internal repairs on this engine, I did an oil pickup O-ring, an oil pan gasket, exhaust manifold gaskets. That's not internal. I think I did the oil pressure sensor once. I don't remember if I did the intake gasket or not. Knock sensors. Those are, I wouldn't really consider those to be internal repairs. So I didn't come in here and change the cam or change the timing gear or put new bearings in it or replace rockers or lifters or pull the heads off and put new head gaskets. None of that. This engine is sealed from the factory from 2001. So let's just take a look and see. I changed the starter once. Like I said, the alternator once. Like I said, those are not internal. It's crazy. Repairs. Those are just your average, run-of-the-mill maintenance kind of things. In the last episode, I don't know if you saw it or not, but if you would like, go back and watch last week's episode after you finish watching this one here. And we tested all the different engine cleaners, the engine degreasers, to see which one works the best. And shockingly, there was one that actually did really, really well. It still looks very dirty, but trust me, compared to what it looked like yesterday, this thing's amazing. Why don't you come over here and take a look at this? I'm actually real quick. Let's pull this off too. We'll look at both of these at the same time. Those guys look like they're in pretty good shape. There we go. All right, let's get you guys in here so you can take a look at this. This is actually kind of impressive. 500,000 miles. First look at the inside. Look at that. No gunk. All of the aluminum is stained from the oil, but no gunk. Here's the inside here. You can see the cam down inside of there. Actually doesn't look, I mean, from what I can see, doesn't look half bad from here. We got this side here, same kind of thing. There's a little bit of water in here from when I pressure washed it yesterday. Not too worried about that. We're gonna dig into this thing. No, still full of oil. All right, let's flip this thing over, spill some oil on the ground, and let's pull the oil pan off. Next, let's look at the bottom end. We still got coolant in the block. That's fine. All right, there comes the oil pan. Looks like there may be some sludge down towards the, down in the oil sump down there. So of all of the repairs that I did do, when I say all of them, like I did a bunch, but the oil pickup tube here, kind of a common issue with these LS type engines is the O-ring gets old and brittle, and then it sucks air, and so you get a little bit lower oil pressure, and it takes it, and then it takes it a minute when you first start it to actually suck up oil and build pressure. So I did pull the oil pan at one point in time. I want to say I was around 350 or 400,000 miles. I pulled this and I put a new O-ring in it, but that is the extent of actual internal repairs. I changed an O-ring. Let's get this windage tray and oil pickup out of the way so we can take a look at this bottom end. You know what I'm gonna do real quick? We gotta keep on top of this. You know what I'm gonna do real quick? Let me go grab Ziploc baggies so we can keep all the hardware you know, we don't want to lose the hardware. All right, we were getting a little fast and loose there. We had to stop for a second. Best thing to do, you're pulling apart an engine. It doesn't matter if you do it professionally or not, just, it's a good habit. Ziploc baggies are like the quart-sized baggies here. Write down each individual component, right? So, like right here, we have our valley cover. We're gonna do those bolts first. Valley cover. All the valley cover bolts go in the bag. That's the only bolts that go in the bag. That oil pan. Oil pan bolts. And this one we'll do the windage tray, and I'll go ahead and do the oil pickup tube. There's just one bolt there. Let's grab this one oil pickup bolt out of there. Okay, so there's that. Let's get this guy. You can see on this piece, we're actually got a little bit of actual sludge and grime buildup on the outside of that, but it's not crusted. It's just grimy. That's kind of what you want to avoid that. If you see that on a 50,000 mile engine, we got problems. If you see that on a 500,000 mile, it's kind of expected. Let me try wiping this. So what's interesting to me is all of these parts are stained with the oil. So the oil is just literally baked its way into the steel. Let's pull this windage tray off. There's a few chunkies, but I think that came from the cleaning that we did, because there's also a little bit of water. Wow. Come over here and take a look at this. All right, look at this guy in here. You could still see some of the, I don't know, markings, I'm assuming, factory markings on here. But see how everything's just got like a black, you know, like an oil stain to it? It's interesting to me how like there's, like it's more of like a golden oil stain here, but then towards the outsides here, it's more of a black, kind of almost a gritty, grimy black. Or even like right here. It's black and gritty down here, but then it's more of like a golden, oily color here. Same kind of thing. Just rod cap. That's interesting to me. There's the chain, there's the timing chain, and that guy looks pretty good. I mean, it looks, if you'd focus, it looks kind of shiny in there still. There's your tone rings for your cam and your crankshaft speed sensor. Interesting. All right, let's flip this thing back over and let's continue taking apart the top end. Let's get the valve train out. Yeah. All right. We are definitely making a mess. Nothing a little kitty litter can't fix later. Let's pull these rockers out of here. Got me this fancy pants little organizer here for all the valve train. So let's pull these guys apart. Let's get these heads off of here. That's the main thing that I want to see. Wow. So clean. That's not broken. Look at that. These guys actually look not too bad. It's interesting how you can see like the color difference between up here in the top, where I was pushing on the rocket arm, and then down here towards the bottom. It's almost like a titanium purple color. It's interesting. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, well, look inside of here. Look at this. There's virtually no grime. So in like these areas right here have never seen oil a day in their life. They're mated to the underneath sides of these guys. And so it's interesting to me to see how parts of the engine that really never saw any oil, there's still the shiny aluminum, but then all the rest of this. And I don't know if this is, I'm looking at this, I'm not seeing anything in here so far that's making me think like, oh man, this thing is gnarly. Now, I can't wait to see inside the engine cylinders. That's what I want to see. Like, that's what I want to see as far as the, how clean is it? How bad is it? I don't know. So I think the next thing we're going to do, let's pull this head off. All right, so I like to turn the blocks of the head straight up and down. So when you go to pull it off, you don't have to worry about it falling off. Although usually they're pretty stuck on there, and you usually kind of pry them off, but add some grime on it. That one's got some grime in there still. We need to get that cleaned out. This hardware right here looks, I mean, brand spanking new. Look at those head bolts. It's a very coarse thread. 10.9. So that's roughly an 8, grade 8. Big old longy boys. I don't know why that one didn't want to come out. All right, first look underneath the heads. 500,000 miles. These are the original head gaskets. Okay, pulling it off, and you're gonna get to see it before I do. Okay, you know, I see some cross-hatching actually. Wow. Wow. Here's the head gasket. The original head gasket. Down here we got our lifters. We'll be pulling those out in a little bit. Okay, let's pull the other head off. I want to kind of spin this thing around a little bit. Actually, why don't you come over here and take a look at this head. So here's the underneath side of this head right here. And so what's interesting to me is this is all just loose. It's not, so I don't know. Looking at the spark plugs here. Focus. It didn't have any oil. No oil. No oil. No oil. So it wasn't leaking any oil. So that's a little bit of, I think that would clean up beautifully. I think that wouldn't take much effort. I do want to check the parallelism of the head and see if we have any warp or anything like that. And we will do that. We will do that. But that's intriguing to me. And you can tell that spark plug's been in there for a while. Spark plugs weren't fouling. They're perfectly white. You can see the porcelain's just a beautiful white color, just a slight shade of brown. So she wasn't running rich. This, I guarantee all of this is from the EGR. Without the EGR, it would probably look a lot more like, you know, cleaner. Obviously the exhaust valves are cleaner than the intake valves because they get hot. They get much hotter than the intake valves. Intake valves have a point in time where they're getting nice, cool, fresh air blown across them, and the exhaust valves are just only dealing with hot air. There's that split second where there's the cool charge as the piston's coming down, but then it comes up, it's compressed, that's hot, it ignites, it burns, and then when it's pushing all of that back out, it's just hot exhaust gases. So the exhaust valves pretty much just hot all the time. The intake valves get a chance to cool. It's interesting how big that intake valve is compared to the exhaust valve, though. All right, let's pull the other head. Let's see what the driver's side looks like. Put that bad boy straight up and down. Why is it so tight? We're also down to one battery, one bar on the battery. So it's interesting to me is that it came out, was coming out just fine and dandy, and then it stopped. Why did it do that? I don't see any damaged threads. I don't know why it did that. All right, let's pull this head off You're gonna get the first look again. Is it gonna come on? No. That one's glued on there. There she goes. All right, what does it look like in there? Tell me. What do you see? Let's see if we can get this engine to spin. Oh yeah. They're really, I mean, this is the other thing. You gotta think, 500,000 miles. This isn't a 50,000 mile engine, 500,000 miles. Just knock off these chunkies here. Just all the loose stuff. Look at that. Those are 500,000 mile pistons. Look at that. The camshaft looks good. I mean, the two lobes that I could see, I'm not seeing any spalling or erosion. Wow, that's impressive. All right, so one of the things that I want to check, I just want to see, right, before we continue the tear down too much further, I want to see what are we looking at as far as, I want to grab me like a, right here. Let's get a cap. Let's get a cap. Let's pull one of the rod caps off and let's plasti gauge it. And then I want to take off maybe a couple of the main caps and let's plasti gauge those. And let's just see what kind of oil tolerances are we running in these bad boys. One of the other things that I'm going to do real quick, just for, I had a request by one of our subscribers. They wanted to see what's the difference. Can you plasti gauge with oil? Will it affect the plasti gauge result? All right, let's just pull this down. This rod cap here. First look at the bearings. Okay, we do have a little bit of something, but we haven't even made it through the copper. Oh, look at that. Through the copper and into the brass here onto the side. Okay. The same on this guy right here. That's interesting. The camshaft, or the crankshaft though, looks marvelous. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, right here. So we're going to be looking at the Bible we got right here. Engine mechanical specifications for the LQ4, which is the 6-liter, and that's what we have. 364 cubic inches, yada, yada, yada. Oil type. Oh, this was something I found was interesting. This is, like I said again, this is according to GM, authentic GM service manual for a 2001 6-liter, and that's, well, it's all the trucks and everything. This is book number 2 out of 5. This is a 5 book, and you can see these are big old thick books here. Oil pressure minimum hot. 6 psi gauge at 1,000 engine RPM. 18 psi gauge at 2,000. 24 psi gauge at 4,000. So that's all you really need. 530. It doesn't give you a hot, a cold, a summer, a winter. It is 530 at all times. Okay, so let's look right down here. Connecting rod. We have the bore diameter, 2.224 to 2.225 inches. Now you're giving yourselves 1/1000th of an inch. Okay, so service limit is between 9 and 3/1000ths. So 9 10,000ths and 3/1000ths of an inch. That's pretty tight. Connecting rod side clearance. We're allowed quite a bit side clearance. So we're looking at between 9 10,000ths and 3,000ths of an inch. So I got some plasti gauge. So let's find our plasti gauge that, what do we got here? That's 4 to 9. It's probably gonna be too. What we got here? There's 9 to 20. That's definitely gonna be too much. There's 2 to 6,000ths. That's probably about right. And then there's 1 to 3,000ths. Connecting rod bearing clear service limit. I want to see if this thing, so we're allowed up to 3,000ths of an inch. So if it's over 3,000ths, then they consider your bearing clearance is too much. So this guy does, let's do this 2 to 6. Okay, so we've got our 2 to 6,000ths of an inch gauge, or plasti gauge here. So if you've never used plasti gauge before, then I'll show you. It's a piece of cake, comes in these little, and as you can see, the different colors are for different ranges of clearance. So what you do, if you look at it, it comes in these little blocks, and each of these blocks is identical. So you take one block, you cut it, and then very carefully you extract your little piece of wax that you have in there. I'm going to take this wax. I'm going to take some oil real quick. This is 1030. I want to simulate a oiled bearing. Like, I don't know, the thing was just running and you're just like, hey, real quick, is this thing any good? We're gonna go ahead and stick our little piece of wax in the middle of the bearing as close as possible. And then we're gonna go ahead and put our cap back on. And we're gonna go ahead and torque this to its torque specification. So the torque spec for these, 15 foot-pounds. $14.9, I think that's close enough. Oh, we did 15.1, oh no. 14.9, that'll be fine. All right, so to do a torque turn method, and that's what this is required, it's 15 foot-pounds and then 60 degrees. Each one of these flats on a bolt, just literally any bolt, here's a bolt, any standard 6-sided bolt, each flat is 60 degrees off from each other. So when you go to 60 degrees torque turn, they're just wanting you to move it one flat over. You've now turned it 60 degrees. The way to do that, this is the way I do it. So take your socket, find one of the flats, and mark the flat. So now you can see it from this side. Then we're gonna go right here, and I'm gonna say this flat needs to be moved over to here. So I'm gonna mark right here. I can then take my socket, see how the two lines aren't lined up, and then I'll turn it until the lines line up. Boom, I've now moved that 60 degrees. Now let me move this guy. I don't know if I can, we can get it. It's just gonna be a little tight. Let's get you, let's say right here. One flat off. I'll turn it to right there. Perfect. So now we've gotten both of these torqued down properly. Let's take them off and let's see what our clearance is. And then right here, you can see where the plasti gauge is sitting. Now you can do one of two things. This guy right here actually has a built-in gauge. So you put this up against it and determine what the thickness Okay, 2 thousandths. Plastic gauge is at 2 thousandths. So that's actually like well within spec for the bearing. Now what I'm going to do here, we're going to clean this up. One of the other things is you don't have to worry about taking the plastic gauge off. You can put it on there, check it like that, put the cap back on and let it rip. It's not going to hurt anything. It's wax. It'll instantly melt and come right off. But for us, we're going to scrape it off real quick. We're going to clean off this. Just hit that real quick. We'll hit our bearing. Make sure it's clean and perfectly dry. And then we'll do this test again to determine, is there a difference? Do you have to remove all of the oil? Or can you just leave the oil on it and just do the test? So it showed 2 thousandths. So let's see. Let's see if it did the thickness of the oil being there, did that make a difference? All right, so we got this thing cleaned up. There's no oil in there. Let's put our plastic gauge right there. Now it is critical when you go to put your caps on. These are what's called a fractured cap. So they literally make the entire connecting rod as one piece, and then they fracture it. If you look at it, see how it literally looks broken? See, it's not even flat. Like if you look at it this way, it's not even flat. See how this edge is taller than like the rest of it around it? It's not even flat. It looks broken. It looks like broken metal. That's because they did that intentionally. When you use ones like these, it has to go on in one direction. You cannot put it on backwards. And it actually, the reason they do that, two things: it's way cheap, and they actually grip together better. Because you looked at that piece of metal, right? And it was jaggedy, and you see all the unevenness of it. Each of those pieces fits together tightly like a jigsaw puzzle, and it doesn't allow it to move at all. If you have two perfectly flat things, they can, even though you have a bolt in there, they can still move around potentially. So by having those very jagged, uneven surfaces that are perfectly mated together, it can't move. It gets locked into place. Okay, 15 foot-pounds. Oh, 15.7. We went way over. Let's try that again. 15 foot-pounds is not much. Okay, there's 14.9. $14.8, 15.1. Okay, I'll do 15.1. Now let's look and see. Do we have a flat? Yeah, that one still kind of lines up. That one still kind of lines up. We'll be fine. We'll go ahead and reuse those. So put our mark on the flat away from where we're trying to go and turn it. That's pretty tight. Okay, there we go. Perfectly clean cap. Plastic gauge versus a oiled plastic gauge. Okay, so that guy looks to me like there's definitely a difference. No, it measures the same 2 thousandths. Yeah. So if you've never done this before, there's the little bit of plastic gauge down there. And then what you do is you take your little piece and then you match what's the thickness of it. Just see that right there? That is exactly spot on. If we move over to this one, well, you can see the plastic gauge is wider than that one. It's definitely wider than that one. But this guy right here, look at that, lines up with it absolutely perfectly. So if we look at that big wide one, upside down, 2 thousandths of an inch. So plastic gauge doesn't remove the need for you to actually physically measure your bearings and measure your connecting rod and things like that. But what it's good for is just a nice verification once you're on your final assembly phase, right? A lot of engine builders, that's what they do, is once everything's ready to go back together, you use plastic gauge on every single bearing just to make sure when everything's torqued to spec, you pull it all back apart and you double check it like that to make sure that everything is, your oil clearances, all of your math. It's basically just a just quick double check on your math. When you measured this and you measured your bearings, and you measured your rods, did all of your measuring match up, right? It's just a quick double check because you can check it right here and say, well, it's supposed to be, 9 thousandths or it's supposed to be 4 thousandths or whatever, and you clamp that on there and that wax just smushes away to nothing and go, oh, that's less than, or 4 thousandths that we're supposed to be at or whatever. So service limit is 3 thousandths. This red is good up to 6 thousandths. We were at 2 thousandths. This is still, as far as the connecting rods go and the bearings on the connecting rods, they're still perfectly within specification. And what I remember from when I drove this truck around, I don't remember there being any issues with oil pressure. Right? Now, one of the other things you may not know is that generally, if you start to lose oil pressure in your engine, a lot of times it's your cam bearings. It's generally not your connecting rods or your crank bearings. Generally speaking, your cam bearings are the ones that'll wipe out, and you'll lose a lot of oil pressure from your cam bearings. But let's pull a main bearing. Let's do this guy right here so you guys can see it good. So we got to take our cross bolts and our 2 main bolts out of here. These are, for all intents and purposes, 6-bolt mains. We have cross bolts and we have 4 bolts going down. So back in the day, I don't know if you remember hearing your dad talk about the 4-bolt mains and 2-bolt mains, and he's always trying to find a good 4-bolt main 350 for his pickup truck or whatever his project was. Back in the day, you either had main caps. They didn't go all the way. They didn't extend all the way across. They didn't act as girdles for the engine block. And you literally had ones that either had 2 bolts or they had 4 bolts like this. No cross bolts, and they didn't act as girdles. There she goes. There she goes. There she goes. Okay. Let's look at these bearings. Wow. For 500,000 miles, I'm going to go ahead and say that looks about as good as you could possibly hope for. It's not brand new, so obviously there's going to be some wear there. But the amount of wear, I'm going to say is like practically nothing, considering I do see on this guy right here, there's an actual nick right here and I can catch that with my fingernail right there. But the rest of this, It is a little rough with the fingernail. I mean, obviously I wouldn't put these, if you were just gonna like, you just put new bearings in it. But considering what this thing went through, 500,000 miles, I'm impressed. Thoroughly impressed. Crankshaft bearing clearance production is 21 10,000ths, and clearance service is 25 10,000ths. You've got 4 10,000ths of an inch clearance between service limits and brand new. That's very tight. I don't know if we could measure that with plasti gauge. Okay, so this is 1 to 3. Okay. You remember that red piece of wax? Remember how small it was? Look at how small this green piece of wax is. It's even smaller. I don't think these side bolts are going to affect the torque of the cap. That's more to add rigidity to the side of the block. So I'm not going to put those back in. Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So we have 1/1000th of an inch is over here. 1.5 thousandths, 2 thousandths. So the spec was 2.5 thousandths was the maximum. That's looks to be right at, it's definitely not 1.5 thousandths. It's a little bit bigger. Oh, my fingers are kind of in the way. It's a little bit bigger than the 2 thousandths, but it's not quite the 3 thousandths. You know what I'm saying? It's not as wide as the 1.5, but it's wider than the 2. So I'm going to say that it's probably in that 2.5 thousandths. It's probably right at the edge of the service limit. Let's be honest. It's probably right at the edge of it. This bearing, this is the front bearing. It's obviously, you know, she's in pretty rough condition. You can see the light reflecting off of that little nice, beautiful little chunky right there in the middle of the bearing, right? My fingernail, I can catch the ridges on that on my fingernail. Like, she's got some chunkies. But the crankshaft itself, I'm not catching anything on the crankshaft with my fingernail, really. So did this bearing do its job? Yes. It took the wear, it took the chunks, it took the beating, it took the abuse, and saved the crankshaft. And the crankshaft's in beautiful, beautiful, perfect condition. So I can't be happier with that. It's what it's supposed to do. It's its job. Now these little guys right here are plastic. And the first time I saw one of these was plastic, and I was like, really, guys? Really? But 500,000 miles and 24 years later, she's in perfectly fine condition, okay? So it's fine. Don't worry about it. Should be fine. There she goes. First look. Well, I touched it with my grimy fingers, but first look. I mean, the roller's spinning nicely. That's just oil. It's not a gouge. There's a little bit of movement back and forth, but not a whole lot. There's zero play there. That spins freely. I mean, literally, other than being dirty, which you could probably just put these guys in like an ultrasonic cleaner. All right, here we go. So we do have a little bit of scoring and wear down here on the bottom. See how shiny it is? Same up here. But I mean, I'm not looking at this one, oh my goodness, because there's no grooves. It didn't wear into the metal. It polished itself shiny right here in these little spots right here. That's it. There's no groove. I can't catch my fingernail on anything. So are these usable? Yeah, I would reuse them. If I was like, hey, I gotta get my engine running again and I don't got the money, absolutely I'd reuse these. Let me pull the rest of these out. And I'll let you know if I find one that's bad or worn out or anything like that. The question that I'm trying to answer is, what's the bare minimum that I would have to do to this engine to get it to go another 500,000 miles, right? Obviously, I'm assuming I'm probably going to, can we just dingle ball hone the cylinders and put the pistons back in? Maybe some new rings, obviously some new bearings, some new seals, obviously, clean it up so it's not leaking oil. But would it go another 500,000? Like, does it just need to be kind of like cleaned up, put back together, re-bearinged? Throw some new rings, throw some new bearings, clean everything up, put it back together. I don't know. That's kind of what I want to find out. There's zero. You get what's called contact stress fatigue will generate in metal like this on rolling surfaces, especially like your roller lifters or on your camshaft. And I'm seeing zero signs of any kind of rolling stress fatigue. I'm seeing zero burnelling. I mean, look at these guys. They're almost broke in. Another 500,000 miles and they'll be perfect. What's odd to me is this discoloration, this golden color. I'm saying it's oil staining is what I'm going to call it. I don't know if that's the correct terminology for that, but that's what it looks like to me. Looks like it's the color of oil. If any of you guys down there in the comments know what it's called or what actually causes that, I would love for you to drop it down in the comments down below and let me know. I'm going to say it's probably the zinc or the additive package in the oil. 500,000 miles later, it's just, discolored from the hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil that this thing's been submerged in over its life. Hot, boiling hot oil, One of the other things is I used exclusively Castrol GTX high mileage. So this guy right here, that looks like that could be a crack. Right here, if it'll focus. Right there. That does look like there is there's something different about that spot than the rest of it. Focus. Focus. See, look, there's the color of the oil that's in it. And it's all of the non-wear areas of these components is the exact color of oil. So I'm calling it oil staining. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for right now. I got a birthday party I got to go to, but we'll come back probably tomorrow, and we'll just keep tearing apart on this thing. The other thing that I want to check, so we checked a couple of the caps, and I'm not going to get super, like I said, I'm not going to get super crazy with it, and we're not going to, race engine, super performance engine, tear down inspection. No, we're just checking it out. What does a 500,000 mile engine look like on the inside? Well, as you can see, not that bad, surprisingly. Now, I will tell you, I am meticulous about maintenance and upkeep on the engine. So it gets oil changes when it's due for oil changes. It gets the coolant changed. It gets whatever it needs to be done. It does. It gets done on exact time. So this is a properly maintained engine with 500,000 miles. This isn't an engine that hasn't had an oil change in 50,000 miles, or never had the spark plugs changed, or never had any kind of maintenance done to it. Nope, this thing was maintained to the best of my ability. The oils were changed. As soon as the change engine oil light came on, that weekend it got an oil change. Every however many miles, the coolant got changed. I think I generally do about 100,000 miles, and I just drain the coolant, put some fresh coolant in it. I did change the water pump on this engine. I do remember that. I think that's the only, like I said, pickup tube. And I didn't even change the pickup tube. I just pulled it off. I put a new O-ring, put it back on, put the oil pan back on with a new gasket. That's the most, I think, actual internal component that I actually did. Never took the valve covers off, ever. I think the entire time I owned or had this engine in the truck, I don't think I took the valve covers off. I pulled the intake manifold off once so I could change the knock sensors out. That's it, I guess. I never did anything to it. This is factory. This is GM factory, and it's impressive. It really is actually impressive that they're able to design and engineer a product this durable. Now, granted, it's 500,000 miles highway driving. It's not 500,000 miles sitting in stop and go traffic, which will make a big difference. But yeah, I'm gonna go to a birthday party. I'll be back, and we'll keep tearing this down.